Hello, welcome to Anime Universe Recap. This is a story about a boy named Haruto who was in middle school. He stayed in his room because some kids were being mean to him, which made him really sad about what would happen next in his life. Then, a goddess appeared and told him he could start all over again with a new life. Haruto was surprised and wondered if he had passed away. The goddess said that magic was very important in this new world, so she gave him really strong magical abilities. Haruto thought he could have a peaceful life just watching animated shows and playing games. He excitedly asked the goddess to begin his new life. He was born into a royal family where his dad was the king. They tested his magic, hoping for strong powers because his parents were important figures who had defeated a strong enemy known as the Demon King. They expected Haruto's magic level to be very high, perhaps even level 50. But when the magic test was done, the crystal only showed level 2. The magic person explained that Haruto could only use barrier magic and didn't possess any other magical abilities. The king and queen were greatly surprised and wanted to keep this a secret. They chose to pretend that their baby, named Prince Reinhardt, had passed away during birth. This was because they were worried that people would be very unhappy if they discovered the truth. Haruto couldn't believe he might pass away again, shortly after beginning his new life. He felt that even in this new world, there were unkind people around him. The magic person thought this was too harsh, but the king commanded his helpers to take the baby to a distant forest and abandon him there. The goddess became worried when she saw this and realized she had forgotten to give Haruto a special power. In this world, they could only measure magic using 2 digits, so they saw his magic as level 2. However, Haruto's true magic level was 1002. Now, Haruto was by himself in a forest as a tiny baby. He couldn't do much due to his young age. But he remembered that the magic person had mentioned he could use barrier magic. He decided to give it a try and discovered it was quite easy for him. He could control the size, shape, and movement of the barriers. He also figured out that he could use his imagination to make them even stronger. Haruto used his barriers to float around and have fun. But suddenly, a large wolf attacked him. Luckily, the wolf couldn't break through his barrier. When Haruto saw that the wolf couldn't harm him, he decided to defend himself. But even though he made many barriers to throw at the wolf, they didn't hurt it. Instead, the wolf just became more angry. Then Haruto had a clever idea. He used his barriers to pull out trees and hurl them at the wolf. The wolf got pushed back, but it wasn't hurt. Haruto didn't give up. He used his barriers again, but this time he lifted a big piece of land and planned to cover the wolf with it. Something surprising occurred. The wolf started speaking like a person and surrendered to Haruto. It turned out the wolf was a female, and she had almost been buried under the land before Haruto realized she was talking. The wolf explained that she had wanted to eat Haruto to gain magic power, but she didn't know he was so powerful. Haruto couldn't reply to the wolf, even though she noticed that he acted maturely and thought carefully. This situation left Haruto feeling uncertain about what to do. So, Haruto decided to try something different. He put his barrier on his throat, and it worked. Now he could talk normally. The wolf asked him again about who he was, but Haruto felt that his name might be difficult to say in this world. So, he introduced himself as Haruto. He explained to the wolf that he was left alone because his mana was low, but she could see that his mana was actually very high. She even thought he could be the reincarnation of the Demon King, and Haruto playfully introduced himself as the Demon King. The wolf surrendered to Haruto and was prepared to give up her life, but he didn't want to harm her. Haruto reassured her that he was okay as long as she stopped attacking him. The wolf was moved by his kindness and promised to never attack him again. Haruto bid her farewell and named her Flay. However, in giving her a name, they unintentionally created a magical bond. Haruto tried to explain that he didn't mean for this to happen, but Flay wasn't paying attention. Suddenly, Haruto felt weak and collapsed. Flay inquired about what was wrong and grew worried about his well-being. Haruto replied that he needed some breast milk. Flay then transformed into a human girl. Haruto felt embarrassed seeing her without clothes, so he used his barrier to create clothing for her. This made her look even more appealing. After Flay calmed down, she noticed someone approaching. She asked Haruto if she should harm the person, but he advised her to learn their intentions first. Haruto used his barrier to secretly communicate with Flay. Flay questioned the stranger about why they had entered the forest. The stranger shared that he had been searching for Haruto. Flay quickly objected and clarified that Haruto was now her master, even though Haruto hadn't really agreed to this arrangement. The stranger informed Flay that he was a relative of Haruto and had come to rescue him. He also brought along some breast milk. Haruto requested Flay to retrieve the milk for him, but instead, Flay became upset with the stranger. She believed that he was offering milk because he knew she couldn't produce it herself. Meanwhile, Haruto was pleading with Flay to accept the milk as he was very hungry. Flay inquired why the stranger was so determined to save Haruto. The stranger shared that he and his wife had experienced the loss of their own child in the past, and he recognized that Haruto had been abandoned due to his potential. Nevertheless, he didn't care about that and wanted to provide Haruto with an opportunity for a better life. Flay was touched by the stranger's tale, so they came to an agreement. She would join them and serve Haruto as his personal assistant. As they departed, the stranger intentionally destroyed one of Haruto's possessions and used a bit of his blood to make it appear as though Haruto had perished. Later on, Haruto requested milk once again, but Flay insisted that he could only consume her breast milk. Over the span of 10 years, Haruto remained with Margrave Gold's family after being adopted by them. Despite initially planning to depart once he acquired some milk, he found himself staying due to their kindness. However, he was troubled by the fact that his younger sister seemed to harbor some negative feelings towards him. Flay had become adept at her role as their assistant, and Haruto felt a twinge of jealousy as she got along remarkably well with his sister. Although Flay was dedicated to taking care of Haruto, he requested that she also spend time with his sister. Haruto's mother noticed his concern over his sister's shyness around him. She consoled him by suggesting that his sister might simply be unsure how to interact with boys at her age. However, this caused Haruto to feel anxious. He wondered whether his mother had somehow realized that he was actually a middle-aged man in his 30s. Observing Haruto's intense reaction, his mother proposed that he should demonstrate to his younger sister, Char, that he could be a reliable older brother. Nonetheless, Haruto faced challenges in socializing, making this task even more daunting for him. His mother further recommended that he spend more time outside of his room with Char and pledged to assist in improving their relationship. When Haruto returned to his room, he contemplated the idea of leaving the estate once again. However, he was convinced that Char's opinion of him would worsen if he chose to depart. He also held the belief that Flay would depart as well if he left. Across the previous 9 years, Haruto had dedicated himself to intensive study of barrier magic. His goal was to craft a duplicate of himself capable of taking his place in case he departed. Unfortunately, he discovered that while he could replicate his appearance flawlessly, the duplicate was unable to speak or move independently. It became evident that he would need to create a copy of Flay for Char as well. During this period, Haruto's father called out to him from outside his room. To know what happened next, please like this video. After 20 likes on this video, I will release the part 2. Thank you.